From the film files of SMW, The Oscars, Episode 8, Best Picture, Part 2. As a reminder, the nominees are Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Let's get started. First up, we have Lady Bird. I definitely originally thought this movie was about Lady Bird Johnson. It's not, but I'm glad it wasn't because I really loved this movie. I thought it was a great take on a coming-of-age story. It wasn't cliched at all. I love that it wasn't centered around the romance. Love played a very big part in this film, but it wasn't all about her relationship with the boys in her life. It showed the really important aspects of romance without making it about the boyfriends. It shows the experience of getting your first boyfriend and the experience of feeling this way about another person for the first time and your first breakup and first heartbreak. Of course, it deals with first times and just figuring out how to fall in love. Overall, this movie handled relationships really well, I thought. I've mentioned her relationship with her mom in other videos. I love that. Also, the relationship with her dad was really great. It offered a really nice balance to her relationship with her mom. It was really interesting to see how those relationships differed and how they were similar at the same time. I also love the way this movie examined friendship. First of all, Julie is awesome and I love her. Beanie Feldstein did a great job, and I love that their friendship kind of had an arc and a journey in this. I also loved that we got to see 2 different friendships. Her friendship with Julie and her friendship with Jenna. And the contrast between those 2 relationships was really awesome. It's just really interesting to see how each of those relationships influenced Lady Bird and seeing her figure out what true friendship means and how important it really is. This movie does a really nice job at showing the struggle of wanting your life to be different than it is and wanting to be more than you feel like you are and figuring out what the really important things in life are and how those are different than what you thought was going to be important. This movie just handles all of that really nicely, and it makes the whole thing so relatable and so enjoyable to watch. One thing at the end, she goes into the church. It made me kind of wish that we had been able to see her relationship with God a little bit more, how that changed and evolved over the course of the film. Some random thoughts and shout outs. I really want Lady Bird's closet. Every outfit she wore was so cute. Also, Raymond from Aquamarine. Anybody else? The cute teacher? No? Just me? Okay. Next up, we got Phantom Thread. This is definitely an off-the-beaten-path love story. It's a little different. Like many of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, they maybe are not for everyone, but personally, I really enjoy this film. I thought Reynolds Woodcock was such a fascinating character. I loved watching him, I loved learning about him. His and Alma's relationship was just so special and so unique. Daniel Day-Lewis and Vicky Krieps' chemistry was amazing. The whole love story was just very interesting and completely different than other romantic films I've seen. I also thought the music was absolutely gorgeous in this, and it really added to the story. It totally blended with the characters, and sometimes it felt like the music did the storytelling when there wasn't dialogue. It added so much to the film, and it was so beautiful. Some random thoughts and shout outs. I loved seeing all the period fashion in this. Next up, we have The Post. This movie was like an I Spy game for actors for me. The whole movie, I was just like, oh, that's that person. Alison Brie and Sarah Paulson, Bradley Whitford, Bruce Greenwood, David Cross, Michael Stuhlbarg, who has appeared in 3 of the Best Picture nominees this year. Like, go Michael. And of course, Zach Woods, who I absolutely could not take seriously in this, thanks to The Office. So that was a joy. The acting in this film was just really superb. Obviously, you have Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks, but also Bob Odenkirk, I thought did such a great job in this. The only performance I didn't enjoy was Meryl's assistant. There was just a couple really odd moments where like the camera sort of lingered on her face for maybe a little too long. Something about whatever she was on just kind of like threw me off a little bit. I don't know. It's a little weird. I thought this was a great story. I love the historical aspects of it. I loved that feeling of team spirit that's captured in the film. I love the underdog aspect of the story, the sticking it to the man aspect of the story. This is just a really fun, inspiring, enjoyable film. Next up, we have The Shape of Water. I found this movie odd but really enchanting. I was very charmed by it. It's another off the beaten track love story. At times it almost felt like a fairy tale, but then at other times it's also very dark and gritty and violent. Really beautiful music, really aids in creating the world of the film. And I loved all the different messages in this story. This movie is kind of a monster movie, but it's really smart in the way that as you watch it, you begin to ask yourself, who's the real monster here? I feel like this film could represent so many different things and could have so many different social and political interpretations. This film definitely brings up the idea of different doesn't mean bad. You could see it as a conversation about the way animals are treated in science. Or you could look at it as an examination of how people are treated differently based on race or ethnicity. Or it could represent mankind's relationship with Mother Nature and how we try to conquer that which we don't understand, how we can become obsessed with ensuring our position on top of the world, and we don't always consider the effects that that has on other living things. One of my favorite aspects of this film is that it kind of felt to me like it was a poem being told as a film, or it felt like modern art almost. Some people will look at it and they will see this beautiful story full of emotion and action and magic and amazement, and they'll be deeply moved by it. And other people might look at it and kind of just see bunch of different paint spread around a canvas. It's another film that maybe isn't for everyone, but it's one that's really beautiful to those who want to open their mind to it. I really enjoyed this film, and I'm really glad it's being celebrated. Finally, we have 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. What an emotional story that just pulls you into both loving and hating all of the characters in it. It's a complex story with messages of violence begets violence, and nothing and no one is just black and white. I like that the movie didn't end in like a nice, neat, pretty little bow. That wouldn't have felt right for this kind of a story. I really like that they keep the ending open and kind of leave it up to the audience a little bit. Even though there is still conflict at the end, you still feel satisfied with the arc of the story. I feel like this movie just had so many great scenes. There were so many shocking moments. I really loved how dynamic all the characters were. It made me really care about all of them and all of their stories. This movie deals with some really tough stuff, but I think it does it really well. Some random thoughts and shout outs. Shout out to Peter Dinklage, because who doesn't love Peter Dinklage? Chief Willoughby's wife, her accent like kept changing throughout the movie. When she was first on screen, I was like, she's American, like everybody else in the film. And then later on it was kind of like, oh, did she like just develop a southern accent? And then it like transformed into a British accent, and then it was like maybe it's Australian. Every scene it was like a different accent. I don't really know what was going on there. It was kind of distracting and a little weird. And I loved Dixon's turtle. I thought that was great. Okay, that concludes our Best Picture category. We're done, guys. Before I reveal my pick, I just want to say I've had so much fun filming these. Thank you to everyone who's watched them. So now to reveal my pick for Best Picture at the 2018 Oscars. Drumroll, please. Get Out. I just really loved this movie. It was so different than I expected it to be, and it really blew my mind. I thought it was a really fantastic film. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Bye for now.